Have you ever been there? You're in a crucial meeting, maybe a first date, and you know exactly what you want to say,
Hmm.
but your mind just goes blank, your throat tightens up, and the words, they just freeze. That little moment of performance anxiety, it's pretty universal.
But imagine if that feeling wasn't just a moment. Imagine it was a chronic condition, a constant battle where your own brain is actively working against you.
Yeah.
Our sources describe that reality as an invisible cage. It forces you to limit your career, your friendships.
Yeah.
Sometimes you can't even order a coffee.
Today, we're doing a deep dive into the incredible journey of Joanna Ibis.
You might recognize her previous names, Joanna Kuczbalska or Kukbalska.
Right before she married the well-known Polish presenter Krzysztof Ibis.
Yeah.
She's a doctor now and a former model who had to overcome just severe stuttering and these debilitating speech blocks her whole life.
And the materials you sent over give us this really unique case study. We have Joanna's own personal account, which is incredibly deep. We have the methods from her speech trainer, David Tomasevsky, and then these really unexpected insights from her husband, Krzysztof, who obviously lives and breathes public communication.
So our mission is to get past the surface level story. We want to uncover the intense, even radical training methods she used.
And the emotional science behind why they actually worked, what it really takes to learn to speak, essentially from scratch.
Okay, let's unpack this. How a fear of speaking, what our sources call an invisible cage, can be completely unlocked. Let's start with her history, because it immediately kind of blows up the idea that stuttering is some lifelong inherited defect.
Right. The sources paint this picture of a child who, in first grade, spoke beautifully. She was even winning reciting contests.
So she had that fluency to begin with.
That foundation is so important because it helps us pinpoint where the problem really started. The blocks and the stuttering, they began in second grade. But she later realized through her own reflection this wasn't a physical problem. She called it, and this is a quote, a disease of fear of people conversation.
A disease of fear.
Yeah. And she was really clear about this. She never stuttered when she was totally alone. Practicing in front of a mirror, nothing.
So the issue isn't the hardware, the vocal cords, or the tongue, it's the software.
Exactly. Her trainer, David Tomasevsky, and another expert in the sources, Evgen Vorek, they both give us the neurological context for this.
So what's actually happening in the brain?
They confirm that these deep blocks are mainly an emotional and situational issue. When your brain perceives a threat-like judgment or failure, it has this intense emotional reaction.
And that's centered in the amygdala, right?
Yeah.
The brain's alarm system.
That's the one. It creates what the sources call a storm.
A storm. What does that do physically?
Well, it just floods your system with adrenaline and cortisol. For a lot of people, that means a racing heart, maybe sweaty palms.
Sure.
But for people with speech blocks, that tension just completely freezes the entire vocal apparatus. The words are there, the intent is there, but the emotional system has triggered a physical shutdown. That's the invisible cage.
And that cage just shrinks your whole world. It forces you into this constant state of avoidance. The sources had a really powerful example of this from an interviewee, Petra Machovska.
Oh, that detail was just heartbreaking. Petra said she had trained herself to avoid the simplest things, like a stranger asking her what time it is.
Wow.
She would rather just stay silent or even write a note than risk the panic and the block that would come with talking to a random person.
When you can't even tell someone the time,
Yeah.
that just shows you how much your quality of life is affected.
Totally.
And we usually think of this fear as being tied to negative things,
Yeah.
A stressful job interview, public speaking.
Right.
But the sources had this total aha moment about what can trigger it.
Yes. This is so counterintuitive. David Tomasevsky confirms that even an overload of positive emotions can trigger severe blocks.
Positive emotions?
Yeah, especially in sensitive kids. It's not just negative stress the brain flags as dangerous. It's any extreme emotional intensity.
Tell us that story about Martina Gers, because that really makes the idea concrete.
Okay, so Martina's stuttering started around her 4th birthday. Her mom threw her a surprise party.
A happy occasion.
The happiest. A huge rush of joy, decorations, all the family gathered in the living room. But the sheer volume of that happiness, the sensory and emotional input, it was just too much. Her system overloaded.
So her brain processed that extreme positive feeling as a threat.
As a destabilizing force, yeah. And the block that resulted, it literally took her voice away. It started this pattern of repeating sounds that then became chronic.
So the big lesson here is the problem isn't speech. It's how the brain encodes extreme emotion, good or bad, as a command to just freeze.
So once you realize the problem is this emotional encoding, the experts say there are basically two ways forward.
Okay.
You have the psychological method, which focuses more on acceptance, management, reframing your thoughts, learning to live with the block.
So practically, what does that look like?
It's often about desensitization, maybe even practicing speaking with voluntary, easy stutters to lower the fear around the block itself. It's about reducing the anxiety, not necessarily eliminating the stutter.
But Joanna, she chose a very different path, the intensive training method. She called it learning speech anew.
She was really clear about it. The stuttering had just eroded her certainty. It was holding her back from her dreams.
Like becoming a doctor.
Exactly. To do that, she felt she had to eliminate the barrier, not just manage it.
And this led her to the most radical part of the training, right after she finished high school.
Yes. The first step was like a total neurological circuit breaker, a period of complete, deliberate silence.
How long?
The sources say it was around 7 days.
7 days of silence. I mean, let's just pause on that for a second. To choose silence to cure a speech problem is just, it's so counterintuitive.
It's an immense commitment. She was effectively in self-isolation. All communication, everything she needed, all her thoughts, it was all done by writing notes.
What's the purpose of that? Why the silence?
It completely breaks that old automatic connection in the brain, the one that links the intent to speak with the immediate feeling of tension and panic. For a week, speech just wasn't an option, and that let the panic system finally disconnect from the vocal cords.
It's a total system reboot. So after that week, how do you even start speaking again without triggering all the old fears?
You start with the absolute basics. You focus entirely on deliberate control and timing. The rebuilding was incredibly systematic.
Like from the ground up.
Literally. Learning to speak slowly, building from single vowels, then putting them together into syllables, and then finally full words. The whole emphasis was on rhythmic, slow, controlled speech.
And the practice wasn't done in some safe, quiet room. This is where her determination really comes through.
Oh, absolutely. She had to confront her biggest fear head-on. She'd have to go up to strangers on the street with a recorder and speak to them in that really deliberate, slow way. She was forcing herself to use the new technique under the exact social pressure that used to make her freeze. She was, literally forging new neural pathways by overriding the panic again and again.
And it worked. By her first year medical school, which is a total pressure cooker environment, she was speaking fluently.
Yeah, though she said her speech still felt a little unnatural at that point because of the intense focus on being slow.
And this is where her husband, Christophe Ives, brings in this fascinating perspective.
Right. I mean, he is a master of live professional public speaking where you think speed is everything.
Yeah, you'd think you'd want her to speed up.
But watching her, he came to this really profound conclusion about the value of that new, slower pace. He argued that the calmness of her speech is a huge communicative asset.
An asset. How so?
He said the goal isn't just to talk fast, it's to make sure the listener is actually absorbing the content. He said her pace gives the listener the necessary time to understand the whole content.
That is a massive reframing. So the slowness, which started as a technical fix, actually becomes a professional tool for clarity. It turns a liability into a strength.
The transformation in Joanna's quality of life is really the ultimate proof of this intensive method. She said it gave her a completely different quality of life.
Confidence, self-belief.
And the courage to go into a field as stressful and demanding as medicine, working in a hospital.
Choosing medicine is the ultimate stress test for this new system, isn't it? Stress is the main trigger for the old patterns.
Right.
So the fact that she operates every day in this high-stakes, life-or-death environment,
Right.
it proves the training holds up under the most severe pressure.
And her partner's observation gives us this really powerful, universal takeaway. Christophe Ives said watching her just affirmed for him that every difficulty or imperfection within us can be changed if we devote time, attention, and a lot of hard work.
And that work has to be sustained. It's not like the problem just vanishes forever, right? The sources are clear about that.
No, it's a lifelong commitment. Her trainer, David Tomaszewski, he explained the reality of it. The brain actually keeps both systems of speech.
The old stuttering one and the new fluent one.
Exactly. Both of them are still there, neurologically active. The person who blocks under stress still exists inside her brain.
So she hasn't erased the old mechanism, she's just built a much stronger one over top of it.
Precisely. And under extreme fatigue or a crisis at the hospital, that old system could try to pop back up.
And she's aware of that.
Yes, she compares it to physical fitness. She says if she stops practicing the techniques, the rhythm, the conscious breathing, the pacing, then her form drops. She has to consciously go back to those tools, especially when stress spikes, to keep the fluent system dominant.
So it's not about being magically cured. It's about maintaining control. She has the knowledge of how her body reacts, and she has the tools to manage that reaction.
That continuous awareness is her freedom. The new system is built on discipline, which is the perfect counter to the chaos of that emotional storm. And that whole arc from avoiding questions about the time to managing life-saving medical situations, it just makes her story a template for anyone trying to overcome a deep emotional barrier.
Here's where it gets really interesting. The sources reveal this powerful paradox at the heart of her success.
Hmm.
The solution to her being unable to speak wasn't more frantic effort. It wasn't trying to push the words out harder. It was the complete opposite.
It was radical slowing down, embracing total silence for a week, and then this disciplined piece-by-piece rebuilding process.
She found her voice by first choosing to have no voice at all.
Exactly. And it shows that for these really deep, entrenched emotional habits, whether it's fear or procrastination or whatever, sometimes you have to completely stop the behavior before you can build a new, healthier foundation. You can't really fix a broken house while you're still living inside it.
So to wrap up this deep dive, let's just land on that powerful mantra Joanna Ibis shared. It just perfectly summarizes her path out of that invisible cage.
Yeah, that line is amazing.
Everything I want is on the other side of fear.
That phrase just captures the whole journey. And as Ivjan Vorek said, the first step out of the cage is always the decision to actually confront that fear. This deep dive shows that knowledge of your own emotional wiring and the tools to rebuild it, that's the ultimate key to freedom.
So we'll leave you, the listener, with a challenge. What is the emotional block you're allowing to dictate your choices? And what level of intense dedication, whether it's 7 days of silence or a year of slow, deliberate practice, would it take for you to build a new system for yourself? Thanks for sharing your sources for this deep dive.